Hi YouTube, this little weird creature is called an AYLMER and it's from the film Bain Damage. In this video I'm going to sculpt this step by step and show you all the stages. I started with a circular wooden base and I just drilled 3 holes into it, and I put 3 aluminium wires into the holes and fixed them in with super glue. Then I just twisted the wire around itself like this. This is 2mm aluminium wire, so it's really easy to bend. Next I used aluminium foil just to squash the rough shape of the AYLMER. You can really squeeze the aluminium foil so that it gets quite dense. For all the main sculpting in this video I'm going to be using MILLIPUT. MILLIPUT is a 2-part putty. You mix the 2 parts together and it sets rock hard in about 4 hours. So here I just have used very thin sheets of the MILLIPUT to cover the aluminium foil. This is a very rough shape, but it's a starting point and then we can add to it from here. Next I sculpted the eyebrow ridges. I've done his eyes where I just made 2 balls of MILLIPUT, let them harden and then I super glued them in place. I've sculpted his upper lip and his lower lips, and I've done the ridges inside of his mouth and ridges underneath his chin. Next I drilled lots of holes in the mouth area and I've used cocktail sticks for the teeth. These are super glued in place. I've also sculpted the eyelids and ridges around the eyes, and I've done all these bumps on his head. When you're doing the bumps, you basically just make 1 bump at a time, like a sort of long sausage, put it on, and then you just smooth the edges in to fix it on. If you haven't seen Bain Damage, it's quite a quirky movie. This little creature, the AYLMER, is attached to somebody's neck and basically controls him throughout the movie. It could fall into the category so bad that it's good, but I really love it. And I just really love little creatures like this in movies. The weirder the better as far as I'm concerned. So you can see here I just continue to attach more and more lumps to the head. Some of them are really quite big and more rounded. Some of them are much kind of longer and thinner. But they're all attached in exactly the same way, just by placing them on and then just smoothing in all the edges. I also added these little suckers at the bottom here. These were made by rolling little balls of MILLIPUT, squashing them on so they form these more like disc sort of shapes. Then you can make this little hole in the middle, and then you can use a thin modelling tool with a sort of edge on it just to kind of make these ridges. And what you're getting is this sort of radiating effect, and you can also do a sort of a round dip around the edge of each one just for a bit of extra detail. Next I added this sort of branching vein effect at the bottom. It's done in exactly the same way as adding the bumps to the head. You're just rolling thin sausages of MILLIPUT and putting them on and then just smoothing in the edges. It doesn't matter actually when you smooth the edges if you leave a few sort of ridges and things. That all adds to the texture and the detail of the whole thing. For all the painting stages I'm using System 3 acrylic paint. I've just used magenta to start with inside his mouth. Next I painted the whole body in this pale cerulean blue. I then dry brushed all the top surfaces with ultramarine blue. Ultramarine is quite a purpley blue, so this is what's going to give the purple hints of colour overall. It's worth mentioning that normally when you dry brush, you leave the dark colours in all the deep areas and you're dry brushing lighter colours on the top surfaces. With this we're doing it the opposite way round, so it leaves the bright blue in all the deepest areas, which gives him an effect that he's sort of glowing, which I really like. It's quite unusual. Next I painted the eyes white. I've given him blue irises and black pupils. Then I did a mix of black and ultramarine and I've dry brushed that over the top surfaces to darken him up a little bit. I've painted the inside of the mouth with a pale pink on the higher areas. On the teeth I've done yellow ochre at the bases of the teeth and then pale blue on the tips and white in the middle. On the suckers I did a mix of yellow ochre, ultramarine and magenta all mixed together, and that gave me the colour for the suckers. I also painted the base a sort of flesh colour so that it looks like the neck that he's growing out of. Okay, and this is how he turned out. I used some black just to kind of do extra dry brushing just to darken him up. I'm not sure this video really does him much justice. In real life he appears much darker and I much prefer him, but hopefully this gives you the rough idea. What I really like is the way that this pale blue really kind of glows from inside him. It gives a really nice effect, I think. Makes him look really kind of monstrous. There are a couple of little thready type things in his mouth that I noticed in the reference material that I was looking through, and I've added those in. Those were just done with glue gun, and it's basically just glue gun glue. Make a thread of glue gun glue, and I trimmed it and super glued them in place, and then just painted them blue. And I think they give a real nice little extra touch inside his mouth there. And what you do is don't paint them too solid, because you want some of the kind of translucent effect of the glue to sort of come through, so you can sort of see light coming through them a little bit. It just adds quite a nice touch at the end, I think. Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, check out my other videos, because I've got lots of other weird creatures from movies. Some of them you'll know, like gremlins and critters and that sort of thing, but there's all kinds of weird things. The weirder the better, like I say. Hit subscribe if you want to see anything that I post in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.